had a question come in about how to deal with the fear of death and dying in a 10-year-old, particularly because in this parent's case, they lost their own mum when they were 10 as well, and that seems to be part of the issue. We're going to talk about what the fear of death and dying looks like in general first, and then we'll talk about how it relates here. Fear of death and dying is very common, and it often underpins other forms of anxiety. So if you've got health anxiety, you're worrying a lot about your health, sometimes that's about I don't want to be ill, sometimes it's I don't want to die. And actually it's the fear of death and dying that we need to deal with. For children as well, often it looks on the surface of it like separation anxiety, so they don't want to be left alone. There's lots of sort of questions and reassurance and kind of clinging on to you, but it's not really pure separation anxiety. It's I'm worried about something that's going to happen, or I'll be left alone with my own thoughts and I keep thinking about dying. How can I resolve that? So what it will look like, first of all, there's a lot in nature that says, you know what, we don't want to die. It's a perfectly automatic and reasonable thing to be afraid of, but it will get more intense for some people if they have had any sort of exposure or experience with health issues or loss. Even if what that is a family story, that they know that my mum lost her parent at age 10 and now I'm coming up to age 10. Adults experience this too. So adults whose parents died around retirement age, as they themselves approach retirement age, even though up here I know I'm not the same person, I might still get some anxiety about that. They'll feel afraid and it will come out as kind of tension and tearfulness. How to respond to it? If it's a reasonable thing to be afraid of, my favourite phrase for this is emotional reassurance rather than logical reassurance. So you can't convince your child that you're not going to die. You can give them reassuring phrases if you like, but it will never take away the anxiety completely because you can't tell them a guarantee. You can't. So instead, what we want to do is offer emotional reassurance. Ask them, are you feeling afraid? Give them a hug. Tell them it's okay to be afraid about that. Show them by telling them that you get afraid of that as well. So that can be really useful. And the second thing is allow them to talk about it, and you can talk about it too. So ask them, what is it that scares you about death? Might sound like a daft question because death is scary to everybody, but for some people there's something specific about it. Maybe this image of this like black hole and I'm just going to be drifting and completely on my own. It feels cold and it feels lonely. Maybe it's that. It might be that it would be valuable for your child to be able to engage in some ideas around what death means. So films that talk about death. So for example, there's the film Soul, to actually engage in some of those things so that you can talk about it. Like, what do you think about that? What do you reckon? So that they can kind of get used to the idea of allowing themselves to think about death while being afraid and not feeling like a weirdo for it.